pals, let's talk about some books I loved. By the way, hi, I'm Casey. If you're new here, this is I Don't Know What I'm Doing, and I do all the things that your other favorite booktubers do. But I today want to talk about my favorite books of 2024. Let's just get into this very quickly. I'm gonna do the honorable mentions first because there were a lot of books I really loved this year, and I didn't want to make this like a 25 length list. So let's do some rapid fire honorable mentions. Human Acts by Han Kang, 10 Minutes and 38 Seconds in this Strange World by Elif Shafik, Earthlings by Sayaka Murata and translated by Jenny Tapley Takamori, Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows by Bali Jaswal, and The Har by David Sodergren. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get into the top 10 of 2024. We're gonna start with Glory by No Violet Bulawayo. And yes, this is going to be my 10th favorite to my first favorite. Let's call it favorite. This is fiction / historical fiction. This is based on the coup that happened in Zimbabwe in 2017, and this is a satirical take on that, and this is following a central figure called Old Horse, who is the leader of a fictional country called Jadada, with a da and another da, and we are following him and what his reign is looking like in current day, but also the lives of many of the people in this country that have been impacted by him and his decisions and what his political machinations have done. This I absolutely loved. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was incredible. It was really funny. It made me cry. I highly recommend the audiobook for this one. I really just loved it. I thought it was so good. The narrator does such a beautiful job, and it honestly, there's such a beautiful use of repetition in here. That thing I said earlier of Jadada with a da and another da, that is in here, I don't know, 400 times or something. It is just, that's a number I'm pulling out of my butt, by the way. This is so incredible, and the use of repetition really helps cement a lot of the things in my mind for this story, and it is also it really contributes to not only how funny this is, but also how emotionally devastating it is at times. And I really loved this book, and it was really incredible. And there were just, 9 other things that I thought were just a little bit better than this, but this really is up there. I love this one so much. Number 9 is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This is a non-fiction that's talking a lot about science and botany. Robin Wall Kimmerer is a botanist and a poet, and in this she blends those two things together beautifully to discuss not only ecological devastation, but ecological hope and indigenous wisdom mixed with science. This is such an incredible, just beautiful book to read. It really takes a lot of things from Kimmerer's life, and she talks about it and does more than talk about it. Really makes you feel like you are there with her as she's experiencing things. I'm holding my books like this a little bit because I've got pain going on today. I'm so sorry. And it is such a beautiful book from start to finish. And it's also part about her life and trying to mesh these two loves together of science and poetry and being an indigenous person and wanting to take indigenous wisdom into modern days. It was really beautiful, and I absolutely adored this. Number 8 is Leadfeather by Stephen Graham Jones, which should not be a shock at all because Stephen Graham Jones is my favorite author. This is a historical fiction following the life of Dobby Saxon, a young Blackfeet man who is really just in trouble and very troubled. He is struggling in his life, and as he is growing up, he feels more and more connection to someone from over 100 years ago, an Indian agent who we're getting to see bits of Dobby's life and his life merge together and mix together as the novel goes on. This is beautiful. This is incredible. I think this is one of Jones's best works. It's so good. It's frightening sometimes and a little scary in places, but never like jump scare, oogie boogie kind of stuff. It's the real life scares and horrors of being an Indigenous person and being a troubled Indigenous person, and the mixture of Dobby's life with this man from the past. It's really incredible, and it culminates in such a beautiful like just climax in the book, and it was just really incredible. I loved it. I think this and Mongrels are the two best Stephen Graham Jones works, if not my favorite, even though they are not my favorite. Number 7 is Pet by Kweke Emezi, and Emezi is definitely my second favorite author. This is young adult fantasy following Jam and her best friend Redemption. They live in a world where all the monsters have been defeated. There are no more monsters anymore, but is that really real? And Jam and Redemption are going to find out after Pet comes crashing into their lives. This is another one. It's another one. It's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. And it's also so fucking real. It's talking about very real things. And obviously, it's this whole idea of like, there are no more monsters in the world, while seemingly taken very literally, of like, you know, like scary under the bed monster versus like human monsters. It talks a lot about human monsters and the ways that people can be very, very sneaky about how very terrible they are. And as far as a young adult book goes, this is so incredible, and I think it is still very readable as an adult, because it is not trying to, it's I don't want to say this the wrong way, not towards this book, but towards other young adult books. I feel like sometimes other young adult books are trying to be really big, right? And this is perfectly sized in scope. It is talking globally in this world, but it is also, it's very real and very personal, and I absolutely adored this. Coming in at number 5 is The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. This is a non-fiction history, and this is obviously a recounting of the history of Palestine and the occupation and the war being fought against it from 1917 to 2017. If you are trying to find more information, oh, I see the light flashing, this might die. If you were trying to educate yourself more on Palestinian history and the occupation currently going on in Palestine, then this is an excellent place to start. This is extremely informative, it's jam-packed, the audiobook is extremely accessible and very easy to listen to, and I can't recommend this one enough. Coming in at number 5 is The Dark Hours by Indra Das. This is a horror fantasy. One night in Kolkata, Alok encounters a mysterious stranger who tells him he is the last half werewolf, and they begin a strange friendship and relationship. And the stranger asks Alok to translate a bunch of texts that he has just lying around, some of which are written on flayed human skin. This is beautiful. I loved this. This was such a sleeper for me. I've had this book on my shelves for a couple years now, and I think it's just like one of the most gorgeous covers. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. But I really didn't expect to fall in love with this, and I did. I really didn't want to put this down at any point in time I was reading it, nor did I want it to end. It's weird and creepy, and it's really strange, but also like you don't, like, while you're in it with Alok, you don't really know what's happening, but he doesn't know what's happening either, and you're following his journey just as much as you are following the journey on these pieces of paper that he's transcribing, and I really loved it. It was really beautiful. It is one of my favorites. Okay, coming in at number 4 is Minor Detail by Adania Shibli. This is a historical fiction, is a dual timeline. Is a dual timeline starting in the summer of 1949, 1 year after the Nakba. Israeli soldiers capture and rape a young Palestinian woman, then murder her and bury her body in the sand. Sometime later, a young woman in Ramallah becomes really fixated on the story of this young woman, and her life is forever changed as she tries to find out more information about it. This is a novella. This is really short. It's very easy to read, and honestly, it's just really, really fucking good. It won a bunch of awards, even though some of them were taken away from it after, the attacks on Gaza, but it's incredible, and it has a bunch of praise for it, very rightfully so. I can't recommend this one enough to people. Number 3 is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman and translated by Ross Schwartz. This is science fiction dystopia, and this is set in a bunker underground that is holding 39 women, none of whom remember anything about the time before being in the bunker or who they were before the bunker, and one of them is a very, very young girl who truly has not had her memories tampered with. She just cannot remember before the bunker. Then one day the lights flash, the guards flee, and their door is left open, and then they go into the outside world. This one is I think that this one over the last couple of years has gotten a lot of attention, and for good reason. It's really good. It's really, really, really good. It's really surprising. It's really sad, but not like in the ways that I expected. And one of my favorite things in books is when they don't try to answer too many questions. They just accept that this is the world and they don't try to do too much. And that is my favorite part about this book, is that it doesn't try to put all the pieces together for you. You are in this world with these women in the exact same position they're in, and it's fantastic. Number 2, which was my number 1 for 90% of this year, 75% of this year, it's You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. Okay, my camera died, so let's try this again. This is a romance fiction, and in it our central character is Faye. She is a woman whose life changed dramatically after the tragic death of her husband 5 years previously, and now all she wants to do is feel alive again. I have said many times this year to many people, including you, my pals, that I didn't want to explain myself with this book, but because we're now talking about like my top 2 books of the year, I will talk a little bit more about this. I think I talked a little bit about this the month I read it in the wrap up, but I'll be a lot more like happily forthcoming, especially now that I've had a lot of time to sit with this book in particular. I straight up thought I was going to give this book 1 star for about 85% of it. It really oscillated really heavily for me from about 4 stars to 1 star all the way throughout the book, and I really thought we were just gearing up for a 1 star. And then I honestly had a moment where there were just some connections that I made with this book. Number 1, there's a portion in this book where Faye is talking about the work that she does, and she is an artist, and this really resonated with me because I had, I think the week prior, read Dear Santhuran, which is Akwaeke Emezi's memoir, and in it they talk very heavily about the work and what they do with the work and how the need, the desire, just the work itself really, really drives their decisions in their life. And so seeing Faye talk about that, it was a moment where I was like, oh, there is so much of this character that is also part, of Emezi, and it was this really beautiful connection. But more so, it was just getting to a point with this book where this is making me laugh because this is so silly. But I didn't connect myself to Faye because I am not wild and going out and starting a relationship with my boyfriend's father. That's one of the big problems people have with Faye and with this book. But someone who I loved very dearly, my mother, she was a wild person, and I don't want to cry. I'm not gonna cry on the internet. That's ridiculous. And honestly, just experiencing Faye's world and her life and her choices, it made me miss my mom in a really intense way. And it sort of just really shifted my perspective on so much of the book. Because it's, as much as I found her decisions frustrating at times, I think you can see the hurt and the pain and the desperation in a lot of Faye's actions. And it reminded me a lot of like some of the stories I've heard about my mom and just who she was as a person, and knowing my mom and just how incredible and sweet and kind and caring she was. I'm not crying on the fucking internet. It really made me appreciate everything that Faye went through more, and her decision making more, because it's as frustrating as it can be to read it and to experience that with a character. Ultimately, it felt very true to who she was as a person and who we were presented with as our central character. And it was really beautiful, and I really loved it. And once I had those connections, I just fell in love with so much more of the book, and it made everything make so much more sense to me. I will say the one thing I really didn't like about this book, I don't like books about celebrity and reality celebrities and stuff like that, unless it's more of a satirical take. And Faye's love interest, him being a very famous chef, all of that, just absolutely did not care one damn bit about. And my number one book of the year, the best book I read this year, and my favorite book I read this year is Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter. Yes, Rose, not Ross. This is a fiction contemporary, and in it we are following Cassie, a millennial living the dream, except for the fact that her job is terrible, doesn't pay her enough, her insurance isn't great, she's living in an expensive city, and her entire life she's been followed around by a black hole, and it's just getting bigger. This book, I should not have been surprised at the way it absolutely gutted me, wrecked me, and was so unputdownable that I read it all in an evening. Because I had seen other people talk about this book and how much they loved it and how it did all these things to them. But in my mind, I was like, oh, it's gonna be good. I'm gonna love it. It's just not gonna, but nothing's gonna surpass You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. And then, god damn it, I was sobbing at the end of this book. Just wrecked, an emotional wreck. Oh, I just wanted to hug Cassie. I wanted it all to be better for her, and it wasn't, and it just tore me apart, and it was way too real being a millennial, and like just the existential dread of trying to make it in this capitalistic hellscape. It was too much, and I loved it. It was incredible. It was amazing. 10 out of 10 sad girl fiction. Okay, that's it. That's my 10 best of 2024. Thank you for hanging out with me through 2024. I know my upload schedule was a lot more consistent than it had been the year previous until my fucking house flooded. So hopefully now that all that is well behind us and Christmas is over, we're gonna get back on schedule, and I hope you are having a wonderful start to your year. Please let me know down below what some of your favorite books were, and I will see you next week. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Bye, pals.